Morning. Okay, so we are doing today Yud Beis Amud Beis. We are up to Yud Beis Amud Aleph, about 2/3 of the way down. What we are up to is Batera Oisei Kitofu, maybe like 15 lines up from the bottom. A little more than 2/3 of the way down, yeah. The Batera Oisei Kitofu, continuing the psukim that in the beginning of there of Shmos, that when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, they saw that he was good. So the Gemara gives a number of different opinions what it means that it was good. Says the Gemara, Tanya Rameir Eimer. Rameir says Tov Shemai. One possibility is that his name was Tov. Rabbi Huda Eimer Tovia Shemai. His name was Tovia. Nechemia Eimer Hagun Lenavias. That he was prepared for Nevuah. Achirim Eimerim Nele Kishahu Mo. Right? He was born with already a bris milah. When the rabbi said that when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the whole house filled with light. Over here, by Moshe Rabbeinu's birth, it says that when he was born, it was good. And in Parashat Shmos, what does it say? So Hashem saw that the light was good. So you see, Kitayv is reference to light there on the creation. So too, when it says B'Meish Rabbeinu, B'Atera Sekitayvu, must be a reference to light. And it's Malakal Abayis Eira. All right, we have to stop over here for a moment to discuss a couple of things. The first thing to discuss is the reason that this is a very interesting Gemara is because this is one of the great examples. I'll stick maybe on Sunday, because we're going to talk right now about different approaches to Rishonim to discuss maybe in Chumash and Tanakh, not just in Gemara. That this is a great example. You see a difference in the understanding of what is Pshat. So what is Pshat in Vayar and like Kimis Arki Toiv? Simple. Talking about the day, talking about the light. Good. Pasuk says by Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayechish Mesevi V'Kachas Bas Levi V'Tarish Avatela Bein V'Teres Lekitov V'Titzvenen Shleishi Rochem. That's talking about light. Not so obvious that it was talking about light. Yet Rashi says in Chumash that that's what it was talking about. Rashi says that's what it means. What does it mean? As a matter of Pashup Pshat, Rashi is telling you in this Malakol Abayis Eira. So over there in Chumash, you'll see that Ibn Ezra disagrees. And Ibn Ezra says, you know what it means? Kitayfu, it means Taif Tayar. He was a good-looking, ruddy child. Look at the Rashbam. The Rashbam disagrees also. The Rashbam says, you know what it means? I'm sorry. You know what it means? It means that he was born after 6 months. What is that so good for? That's so good because of the fact that now he'll be able to be hidden. Because by 9 months they're checking in. We're going to see in this Gemara a different approach to the Rashbam. So you'll understand now what the Rashbam is saying. But interestingly, and just I'm saying it as a joke, not as a joke, but as a shocking kind of a thing. The Orach Chaim, who never once quotes the Rashbam in his commentary, I'm not sure that he was aware of it, because remember, the Rashbam wasn't really printed till late, and his commentary wasn't exactly well known at all. He never quotes the Rashbam, but he actually said the same thing as the Rashbam. Do you expect him to say one of the Gemaras here? No. He says the Rashbam. He says, what does it mean that it was that that he was born after 6 months? He was able to be hidden. Yeah. All right. If he was born afterwards, it was potentially not in Chazal's mind. It was one of those things that would not be able to be surviving, right? In Chazal's mind, that actually was more dangerous. But that is one of the examples of Shinei Ateva and Ishtanu Ativim, but we can't get into that now. We had another example of that recently as well, right? Where do we have that? Oh, yeah, right. We had that by the Siman Gadol on Yud Aleph and Beis. We said that with the Gemara said two Siman Gadol. One is that a woman's legs get cold when she gives birth, which is true even if you don't get an epidural. According to some women, they do get body changes, etc. Their feet feel very cold. But there was a second simon, which was that boys are born with their face down and women are born with their face up, which is more needle. But Aleph also says, um, and the what do you call it? The Gemara explains over there is Ben is panel malik derech tashmisha and Bas is panel malik derech tashmisha. We know that that's not certainly seen today. I think I quoted you the Sefer Bris writes over there that it's not autism. So this would be, potentially like another kind of an example, meaning babies that are born, even the 7th month, the 8th month, they can survive. Yeah. Okay. Continues the Gemara. Oh, before we get back to the Gemara, so you have to look at the Taisus here. The Taisus here is one of the. This is remember how we said already that this Taisus are from Germany. So you can see that the Taisus are from Germany, and this Taisus you see it very, very clearly. So Taisus asks a question, right? The first, in order to understand the Taisus' question, we had a similar Taisus in Brachas. But Taisus in Brachas has a different answer. Taisus here says that this should be the answer of Brachas, and Brachas doesn't say it. It's interesting. But if you Taisus here is based upon a Gemara and Harius. The Gemara and Harius tells us that Rameir irritated, and Rameir of Nassan irritated the family of the Nasi. And he irritated Shimon Gamliel, and they were punished by being pushed out, Michutz Lamachana, that Rav Nassan is not going to be referred to as Yesh Emrim, and Rameir is going to be referred to as Acherim. So the Gemara says over there a story that Rabbi's son is asking him, who are we talking about when we say Acherim? Who are these people? We but we drink their waters, but we don't mention their names. So he says, oh, these are people who tried to ruin the covet of the house of the Nazi. So Shimon Rebbe says, okay, but Gam Shanasam, Gam Kanasam, Kvar Avada, like the Pasuk says, these are battles from long ago. Who cares anymore? So Rabbi Meir now began to be mentioned again, but Rabbi wouldn't quote Rabbi Meir. Rabbi would say Mishum Rabbi Meir. In the Mishnah, he says Rabbi Meir. It doesn't say Mishum Rabbi Meir, but when Rabbi would personally say it over, he wouldn't say Rabbi Meir directly. He would say Mishum Rabbi Meir. It said, but at least the name began to be quoted. But it's an amazing thing, right? We say Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Meir is certainly quoted many times in the Mishnah. So you see that even though there were maybe some hard feelings on a personal level with Rameir, nevertheless, it didn't affect the way Torah was handed down, transmitted. So, Taisus is bothered by a question. Here in our Bryce that we just brought down, it says both Rabbi Meir and it says Acherim. Right? Rabbi Meir says that the reason why it's called Taiv is because his name was Taiv. And then Acherim says, no, he was Ne'el Kishuhumo. Right? So, how could it be that he's saying two opinions? So that's Taisus' question. So if you look at Taisus, and what I wanted to show you that the proof that Taisus here is from Germany, Taisus says in the answer, V'omer Rabbi Shara bekuntras Tsarfas, that he saw in the kuntras from France. Right now, why is that a proof that it's not from France? Because if you're from France, you're not going to be saying, I saw in a kuntras from France. Right? This is a famous Rashbam. If you look at the Rashbam, and the Rashbam tells us there in the end of Parshas, it's in the end of Parshas Matos. In the end of Parshas Matos, Parshas Masan, I'm forgetting bad news. The pasuk says, "Me'ever liyardin yerechai." So the pasuk over there, look at the Rashbam over there. Whichever parsha ends like that, you could check me out. The Rashbam over there says, Me'ever liyardin yerechai. Who is writing that it's from the other side of the Yarden? The people who are on the other side of the Yarden? Presumably, it's the people who have now crossed over. So they're telling you about the fact that it's on the other side of the Yarden. But you can imagine this has very, very, very challenging connotations. If you're saying that the pasuk is written by those who are crossed over, and they're talking about the Evel Yarden, because for them, why is it Evel Yarden? Right, the connotations here are challenging. But what will be the answer? You say, no, everybody views Eretz Yisrael as the focal point. And everything is looked at as from the position of Eretz Yisrael. You never made it into Eretz Yisrael? Nevertheless, you still view yourself as being on Ever Hayarden. Right, but I don't want to get too much down that track. But you see over here that they're quoting a Kunchas Sarfas. It's clearly they're not from Sarfas. This, I think, is a good proof that these Taisus are from Germany, as we've mentioned. So what's the answer? So Taisus gives an answer which he supposedly saw in the Kunchas of Sarfas, which Taisus doesn't like. What does it say in the Kunchas of Sarfas? That the Shmuais, which were Makab, remember, Meir was a student of Elisha ben Avuya, who becomes known as Acher. So the Shmuas that were done by Rameir from Acher, that was Kava b'Shem Acher. But the Shmuas that Rameir has in general, so that's B'Shmai. That is Taisus' first answer. That's what they saw in the Kunchas of Tzarfas. And that's how over here you could have two different opinions. You have Rameir's opinion and Acher's opinion. Acher is coming from Acher, and Rameir is coming from Rabbi Meir himself. Taisus doesn't like it. So Taisus says, no, V'lam Estavra. Why? Um, uh, because by Reb Nassan it says that they were going to call him a Yesh Eimrim, and then everything that he said they called it, not just his own Shemos, everything they said, Reb Nassan, he said Yesh Eimrim. And presumably Rameir also Nami Kiyaitse, but they also called whatever Rameir said as being a situation of Acherim. So rather, so that you wouldn't have something that would be called Rabbi Meir. Everything became known as Acherim. Fine. So Taisus says another answer is la'achar de'asku acherim. After they started calling him acherim, he changed his mind. V'amar nelakashu mo. Right. So according to this understanding, it's not a vart that what he said over from Elisha ben Avuya. It's a question of timing. What he said over initially from Rabbi Meir, that his name was Taif. And then after they started calling him acherim, he came up with a new opinion. Nelakashu mo. So they started quoting that one. And that's how he's known as two different opinions. That's how you get two different opinions here. Okay, back to the Gemara. So the Gemara says as follows. Yeah, so we're up to the part says, but it's b'nei shloisha yerachim. They hid him for 3 months. The loimanu Mitzrayim elam misha de ahadra. The Mitzrayim only was counting the time that a woman would that Yocheved, we said yesterday, so it was a Machzik Grushase, Amram remarried her, so they only started counting to know when to check the house for a baby from the time that he got remarried. Vihi Havas Ibra Beit Flosi Archim. But before they separated, she was already pregnant. Remember how I said that Rashbam says the Moshe Rabbeinu was born after 6 months? That's the pshat and what it means. So for Chazal, that wasn't the pshat. No, for Chazal, the whole gezerah of Kol Haben Hayar Hayar Tashlechu only took place for 3 months. The whole gezerah of throwing the kids into the water was 3 months. Therefore, since that gezerah was only lasting for 3 months, according to the way Chazal understood it, the reason for the gezerah was, as the Tanchuma says, that Tadine Pari saw that there was a Mashiach Yisrael being born, but they didn't know exactly who he was, Jew or Egyptian. They said, you know what? Let's get rid of all the children. Call Haben Hayar. Let's get rid of all the boys. Throw them all into the river. But Moshe Rabbeinu was able to be saved and be hidden because when they were going to come check on Amram and Yocheved's house was 3 months later. Because for their perspective, they saw that they got divorced. What's there to see here? Then they see they got remarried. So they come knocking on the door from the 9 months after they got married. And really, she was already pregnant. So according to Chadash, she was also born after 6 months, but the 6 months is not a real 6 months. It's really 9 months. But it's 6 months in the eyes of the Egyptians. As Rashbam saying, the Pashup Pshat is on the Archaim, the Pashup Pshat is that he was born after 6 months. That's the Pashup Pshat. Period. Yeah. He wasn't able to hide him anymore. Amai, why couldn't you hide him anymore? Titzbeneva Tezel. Just keep on hiding him. You did a good job until now. Why not keep on hiding him? Wherever the Mitzrayim heard there was a child that was being born, Mam to Yenuka Hasim, they will bring another child over there. Right? That they'll bring another child there, then make him cry. So the children will cry together because that's how it works. Right? Bring the little foxes together. So basically, the point is that it became more difficult to hide him progressively as he got older, and potentially be susceptible to be caught by the Egyptians because they had their tricks to be able to find the constables would come around with the little babies as props to be able to catch these other kids. So that's how it became too dangerous to keep him around. They had to figure out another thing to do with him. So they instead put him onto the river. So they made him a little teva. Maishna goimem. What does it mean? Goima is a type of a wood. In the Jastrow, it's called the bulrush. I have no idea what that kind of wood is, but whatever it means. Amar Belezer, Mechel Tzadikim Shemamayim Chavav Aleim Yosem Migufan. This teaches us that for tzaddikim, their mammon is more chaviv to them than their bodies. So what does this mean? The first level of understanding is that what this is saying is that the wood of a goyma is not so great. It's okay, it's fine, but there could have been better wood. Rashi explains, "Va'afal pi," the bottom over there. "Va'afal pi shei mishtamer gufa yoser b'shal eitzim shekoshim v'chazakim." Better, stronger wood could have actually done a better job to protect them. So why didn't they use a better job to protect them? Why did they use the cheaper wood? Because mamayim are chav more than their bodies. It's mind-boggling to say. The situation of Pikuach Nefesh, your own son. So you're saying even then you care about the money? It's kind of an unbelievable statement. And why is it so valuable, the tzaddikim's money, more than the bodies? Because they don't put their hands into gezel, meaning everything is earned rightly. So since there's no gezela involved, it's very, very precious to them. Of course, this Gemara comes up in Chulin and Tzadi Aleph, the famous Gemara over there, and that is the pasuk over there tells us about Yaakov Avinu, Vayevaser Yaakov Levadoi, Vayavik Ish Imay Adalos HaShachar. Why did Yaakov Avinu stay on the other side of the river Yabok? Why was everybody crossed and he wasn't crossed? So the Gemara explains over there, there's the Pachim Ketanim that he wanted to be getting. Why? Says the Gemara exactly the same line. We can't. Tzadikin Shemanim Chavalim Yesim Migufan. Same reason. But over there, I understand it. In other words, what's the Pikuach Nefesh over there? Is the Pikuach Nefesh Yaakov putting himself in Pikuach Nefesh by being alone? He's not putting anybody else in Pikuach Nefesh. So okay, you want to say Mamana Chav Tzadikim? He's not so worried about himself. He's worried about his possessions. Fine. But over here, it's not the Chever and Amram are putting themselves in. They're putting their kin in Sakana. So why over here is it? The Marsha over here wants to say that obviously this wood works perfectly fine. It has to be. It has to be that it works perfectly fine. Otherwise, it would be Pikuach Nefesh. It would not be. It would not have been acceptable. But as Rashi notes, according to this opinion, it's certainly better wood that was available, in the sense that it could have done a better job. But they didn't want to use it because of this idea. Fine. Here's the Gemara. Rosh Nachmani says. Notice over here, Rosh Nachmani, not in the name of Yonason. The Rosh Nachmani says, Amar Davar Rach. What is this goyma? It's something that's soft. So what's the Shmuel Nachmani coming to argue? He's coming to say that the wood that they used, this tevas goyma, is a soft wood. What's the benefit of the soft wood? Is that when you have something soft, you put something hard against it, it'll be able to withstand it and be able to, sort of take in the blow and manage. And so too, if you put something in hard, it'll be able to manage. So Rav Shimon Nachmani and Rabbi Yonason obviously doesn't like the idea that they didn't use such a good wood. So according to him, the Tevas Goyma is something that's even better than the hardwood. The hardwood, if you get something hard, it can break it up. But the softwood is able to take the blows and not get ruined. So for his opinion, the Tevas Goyma is actually showing that how concerned they were. They used the best kind of a wood for him. It is the psukim they covered it up with pitch, tar, or different kinds of tar to be able to make sure that it was water resistant. So the Gemara explains Tanach it's a less of a stinky kind of a tar. And this kind of a pitch, this very smelly thing that was on the outside. Why? So right, Moshe Rabbeinu shouldn't have to smell terrible smells. The next pasuk says Vatasim basa yeled Vatasim basuf. So they took the child and they put him into the water. What's the suf? Rabbi Lezer Eimer Yamsuf means literally the Yamsuf, right? In other words, not the Nile as you normally think, right? But rather they put him at Tasma Suf al Sfas Hayar, right? The reason we think it's the Yar because the pasuk says Tosan basuf al safas hayar. Now you want to say, Rabbi Elazar says that it's the Yamsuf. It's a little bit of a kashem shot. What does it mean? You say they put him in the Yamsuf on the Yar? It's not. There's no such thing. The Yamsuf is the Yamsuf. The Yar is the Yar. Right? So Rabbi Elazar is looking at the word Yamsuf, is looking at the word Suf and saying it's the Yamsuf. As a matter of shot, it's challenging to. It's a challenging thing to understand. But Shmuel Nachmani again says, we turn the page to Yud on Beis. Shmuel Nachmani Amar Agam, that it was a marsh, right? What do you mean a marsh? In other words, as Rashi notes, what does it mean marshy? Right? At the end of a riverbank, what do you have? You have a lot of reeds, right? You have willows, Rashi says. You have lots of, wetlands. Wetlands, I think in English it's called. You can see them in the Everglades in Florida. You have like these marshy kinds of areas with lots of things growing in them and the like. So that's what we're talking about. And that's where he was put. And that would make much more sense with the simple reading of the pasuk. Because it was for sure the Yar, and it's the Suf part of the Yar. What's the Suf part of the Yar? It's this sort of marshy land that's going to be near the banks of the river. Fine. Continues by the way, in the bottom tesis in Yud Beis, tesis over there quotes the Chemer Bachutz v'Zeves B'Fnim Pirish Rabbi B'Shem, right? Either Reb Shimon or Reb Shlomo Bar Kloinimus. Again, another sort of German tesis, another proof about what we're talking about. Okay. Continues the Gemara. So Vater Bas Par Lirchotz Al Hayar. Right, the pasuk says that she, the daughter of Pharaoh, was walking on the banks of the river. Amr Rabbi Yechanan Mishum Rav Shimon ben Yochai Melamed Sheyarda Lirchotz Migul Avia. He was going, Rashi says, to be Megayer, right? Because in their minds, in the Egyptian minds, the Nile was like a god. Right? You can imagine from their perspective that the Nile was considered very godly. Why? It provides for all the needs. Right? Even to this day, with Ethiopia building the big dam, right, and Egypt is threatening it constantly with war, Ethiopia has still been filling it up, the dam. Why? Because the confluence of the Blue and the White Niles together, when it gets to Egypt, was they didn't have rain. They didn't depend on rain. They depended on the Nile. It rains in Africa. Deep down in Africa, there's parts of it past the Sahara that are very green, that there are mamish like, forests, unbelievable. So it's raining, no problem. But in Egypt, there's like a desert. There's nothing there. If not for the Nile, they would have nothing to grow. So what do? They all built irrigation ditches and canals, all these things off the Nile to be able to live. So for them, the Nile's mamish God. It keeps them sustained all these years. So to go and bathe in the Nile would be a chutzpah. So that is the proof that we know she was going to be Megayer, says Reb Shimon ben Yochai. Hashem is going to wash off the dirt of the daughters of Zion. And in the pasuk over there makes it clear that something's going on about the Nile, because the pasuk says, "Vater bas par lerchotz al hayar, v'na'ar al yad hayar." Why does it say that she's going al hayar, and the maid servants are going al yad hayar? Right? There's a distinction. One by one it says yad, and one it says al hayar. The addition of the word yad is there to tell you that the maid servants are doing something that's fundamentally different. So the what do you call it? The proof, as a matter of pshat, to Chazal that she was going against her father's belief system, going against Avodah Zarah, was the fact that she specifically went in the Ark. What is it as a matter of pshat? As a matter of pshat, what is the pasuk pshat on the psukim? What do you think the pasuk pshat is? Pasuk pshat is simple. The maid servants don't get a chance to bathe. They'll have to find their own time to bathe. This is the princess's time to bathe. They're there to make sure nobody else is coming. They're there to keep her comfortable. That's why they're going al yad hayar. Their job is not to be bathing when the princess is bathing. Their job is to make sure every one of her needs is met. That's the simple pshat. But the Chazal saw in the distinction that this was a reference to Avodah Zarah. Yeah, it continues going. Right, and they saw that because of the fact that the Ya'ar was considered very godly by them. Yeah. Al Yad Hayar. So the Gemara explains, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ein halicha zu ella Lashon Misa. This halicha is the Lashon of Misa. V'cheinu Emer, hine anechi halich lamos. Right, the pasuk says that by Esav, when he comes to Yaakov after uh, days of being out on the hunt and not being very successful, so he comes home and he's very tired, and he says to Yaakov, "Hine anechi halich lamos v'lamos ali b'chayra." Yeah. As a matter of Pashup Pshat, that is debatable whether or not Esav was actually going to die. If Esav was literally going to die, then it would be a very bad look on Yaakov Avinu. If Yaakov Avinu was saying to Esav, well, you're about to die, but nevertheless, let's make a deal. Tell me your Bechayra, in order for you to be able to survive, I'll give you a little bit of something to eat. It would not necessarily be the greatest look on Yaakov Avinu. So as a matter of Pashup is what we would call hyperbole. Esav is saying, and this is a vart in Esav's badness. Esav is not appreciating the value of the Bechera. He uses hyperbole to talk about himself. He's saying, you're not really going to die. No, but you don't respect the Bechera. You don't respect Avram Avinu and Yitzhak. You don't respect what you have. So that's really becomes then a story about the terribleness of Esau, not a story about the terribleness of Yaakov. So we're not being matzdik Yaakov as the goal. We're just simply saying, what's the Pashup Pshat? Pashup, the guy's come home from hunting and he's about to die, literally, and they're having a whole conversation about the sale of soup, and the whole thing sounds on its face to be very far-fetched. The Pashup Pshat, I think, is, as I just said, Chazal nevertheless are using it as Hinei Nech Halech Lamos in a literal way, which again puts Yaakov in a terrible, terrible light. But nevertheless, to get across this point of the fact that that they were going to die also. What do you mean that the Naris were going to die, the servants? So the Gemara is going to explain in a minute. So they saw the ark in the middle of the Suf. The Kabul once the daughter of Pharaoh saw this ark, she wanted to save Moshe. So Amrullah, her servants told her, Givertenu, our master, right, a mistress, Min Hagashal Olam Melech Basav Adam Gazer Gezerah, when the king, any sort of king makes a gezerah, in kala ilam kulei ein mekaymen isa. If the whole world is not going to accept the gezerah, banav b'nei beisa mekaymen isa. But at least the king's family, at least the royal entourage, they'll keep the gezerah of the king. Right? It was obvious to everybody. If there's a kid in a teva, then it's got to be a Jewish kid. To me, as a matter of fact, it's not obvious why. Right? If you said that if you say that every single child had to be thrown into the ark because of the fact that they were afraid that maybe this child was Egyptian or maybe he was Jewish and they couldn't tell, which, as we said, as a matter of fact, it makes sense why they couldn't tell because of the fact that he was a Jewish kid biologically, ethnically, but he was living in an Egyptian home. Makes perfect sense why the Sagni and Para are very confused. And we talked about the Ibn Ezra that says that was that was a whole literal descent into Moshe Rabbeinu's mind into understanding who his Echav were. But why is it obvious that it's a Jewish kid? Why couldn't it be an Egyptian kid? A mother wanted to save her kid. On this, I don't have a proof, but there's a number of things, a long list, that make Judaism literally the basis of Western civilization. Among them, one of my favorite ones is, of course, the idea of 7-day week, the idea of a Shabbos that has no cycle in time, right? The 24-hour day, the 30-day month, the 365-day year, all that is cycles in time. You can see if you had a what's it called, telescope, and you knew how to monitor these things, you would see, okay, we're going around the sun 365 days a year. Oh, we're back there at the same place again. Right? You'll be able to monitor it. 30 months, you can tell pretty much with the naked eye. Oh, the moon's back, right? You can tell that. Those are cycles that are obvious. The 24-hour day, everyone sees that. Yeah. But the 7-day week is not a real cycle. There's no cycle in time like that. There's nothing in the astronomical movements in the world. The Jewish contribution to the world. No one even chaps. The entire world operates on a 7-day week, and it's a Jewish contribution. Another massive Jewish contribution to the world, and the world doesn't, appreciate. The world doesn't chap what they have over here. Is the idea of infanticide is not acceptable in the non-Jewish world. And even in times of the Greeks, they were shocked that the Jews, they don't kill kids. That even Aristotle says, you have a kid who's not all up to it, kill him. Right? In Sparta, they killed every kid who wasn't a physical specimen. They killed him. Just boom, done. Wasn't thought of twice. I'm saying this not as a matter of shock because I can't prove it from the psukim, and it's going a step too far for me. But in Egypt, I would imagine infanticide wasn't something that was a shock. But by the Jewish people, one of the things that we absolutely abhor, right? You're not allowed to be putting your kids by the getchkas. They would kill them. Not allowed in Judaism. It's not a right to life kind of thing. It's just pashup pshat. It's murder. We don't do it. So maybe in that way they understood that an Egyptian mother would be happy to listen to the gezerah. Wouldn't think twice. So obviously, if there's somebody who put a kid in there, it's got to be a Jewish mother. Maybe. All right, continues the Gemara. So Bagav Griel v'chavatam bekarka. When these women, the maidservants, told Bas Parai, "Hey, what are you doing? You need to adhere to your father's gezerah." Gabriel came along and killed them. Now you see the connection by what we said before between and V'naraseh halachas liyad hayar. Yeah, she put out her arm, she outstretched her arm to take in the teva, to take in the baby. What does it mean? She stretched out her arm to take it. That's one opinion. And the other was she sent her maidservant to go get the kid. So according to Mandam, who says it's a hand, because amasa could also sometimes be a hand. Umanda Amar Shivchasa, and what does the Manda Amar hold that it was a Shivcha? Midalek Siv Yada. The reason he says it's a Shivcha is most likely because the Amasha can be used as a hand, but it's a weird lashon. But you could have said hand. Vatishachas Yada. Why does it say Amasa? Probably means it was a maidservant. Umanda Amar Shivchasa, Amar Shabagabil V'Chavata Mekarka. But how could there be any maidservants if Gabriel killed them? The Shire Lachada, the Lav Orcha, the Bas Malach, and Lekim Lechuda. Yeah, Gabriel killed all the Narais. He killed all the maidservants except for one, because how can Bas Pari go back to the palace with no maidservants? That would be weird. She needs help. So obviously there had to be one that remained alive. Amar Yada, and according to Mad Amar who holds that it was her hand. So let's like Yada. Why not just say hand? Yada. Why do you have to say Amasa? Says the Gemara, Amar Kamashmal, and this is teaching us that it extended. It extended, her hand extended like rubber rabbits to be able to get baby Moshe, right? As Rashi notes, we also see that the Amar Mar, the more tells Megillah to Zion, as well. I think, yeah, the Amar Mar v'chein ata mitzvah ba'Moshe shel Bas Pari. We find that also by the what do you call, by the hand of the daughter of Pharaoh that it extended. Over there, the Gemara is referring to by Achashverosh. Right? Achashverosh took the puzzle, the Sharvet Azov, and he sticks out the Sharvet Azov to let Esther in. Right? Because if he doesn't stick out the Sharvet Azov, so then you'll be dying. You're not allowed to come into the king without permission. So the what do you call it? The Gemara is telling us there, Megillah, that you find this example of it sticking out to a distance. You find that by Bas Pari. You find that by Achashverosh. And then the third place we had this also in Brachot and Dalet. Right? If you remember, the Gemara over there in Brachot says that he wanted to pick up a mountain and throw it on the Jews. So he picks up a mountain and his teeth get stuck in the mountain, so they are unable to be dislodged, so that he can't have the success of being able to throw down the mountain on the Jews. Yeah, it continues the Gemara. The Amr Shlog Shatikar Shibarta Ela Sherivavta, right? That his teeth extended. Right? Tiftach Vateres Hayeled. She opened up the ark and she sees the baby, Vatera, right? And the Gemara asks, why did it say Vatiftach Vatir Es Hayeled? Rashi over here explains that S is a lashon of im. Like we say, like by Binyamin Leshach Yaakov Es Echav, right? Yaakov didn't send Binyamin with his brothers. Es means with. So Vatiftach Vatir Es Hayeled, she opens up and she sees with the child. So the Gemara says Vaterami Barle, which should have just said she saw the child. Vatiftach Vatir Es Hayeled. What do you mean Vatir Es Hayeled? It sounds like she saw something with the child. I'm the Rosh Shechina, she saw the Shechina. Yeah, the next words in the pasuk was that there was a child that was crying. Kari yelad v'kari nar. So the pasuk is not clear. On the one hand, right, the pasuk of tiftach v'tirei was a yelad v'hinei nar b'echa. So what is he? A yelad? Is he a baby or is he a nar? Which one is it? Make up your mind. Says the Gemara, Tanahu yelad v'kari kanar. Really, he was a baby, but he had a voice like a nar. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Amalei Ben Chemia. Ben Chemia doesn't like it. Imken asisim Moshe Rabbeinu Baal Mum. If Moshe Rabbeinu has the voice of a nar, when he's a yelad, then he's a Baal Mum, and he won't be kosher, as Rashi says, to do the shira. To me, I'm kind of mind boggled by this Gemara. Moshe Rabbeinu was a Baal Mum because he couldn't speak. By definition, he wasn't able to do the shira if there was shira to be done. So I'm bothered by the fact that he has a color kanar. So Chazal base themselves on the idea that Moshe Rabbeinu gets better because we don't see again the Kvad Pen, the Kvad Lashon after Har Sinai. So if that's the case, so what? If he was born as a baby and he has a voice like a nar, and then later on as an adult his voice changes, now he's also puzzle. It's a mumayver. It's not something that's around. It goes away, right? If a kohen has a broken arm, so he's possibly can't do the shechita, he can't do anything. Okay, but if today they have the surgery that you fix the arm, now he's fine. So then you say he's a puzzle. He's not puzzle forever. His arm is fine. He goes back in. I'm not 100% clear why this is not a mum over, why this is a problem. It's a problem when he's a kid, okay? So he's not kosher anyways when he's a yell to be doing this year. You have to be a certain age to be able to do that as a lady. I'm not 100% clear. Yeah, continues the Gemara. A different answer. Nechemi, because doesn't like what Rabbi Yehuda says, he gives a different answer. I'm saying this is potentially all answers for Rabbi Yehuda to Rabbi Nechemi. The Gemara doesn't go through, but maybe these are answers Rabbi Yehuda would have had to Rabbi Nechemi. In any event, what does Rabbi Nechemi say instead? She made him a chuppah of a nar in the teva. Why? Because she said, Amar Shemalei Eskel Chupasir. Maybe I won't be zeicha. Maybe you're going to die. I won't see a chuppah. So in the teva, she made him a chuppah for a nar. That's why it says nar and yellow together. Tachmal love, and she has a mercy on him, this daughter of Pharaoh. She rescues him. She says, this child is a Jewish child, you have to help him out. The Gemara says, Mina Amra, right? Mina Yada, how did she know that he was a Jewish child? As we already said before, that maybe the Egyptians, they wouldn't do this. But the Gemara has a different reason. Amra B'Yisrael, she saw that he was a Gemal, like we already said before. One of the Pshatim and what it means, Kitayvu, was the Pshat of Acherim. We saw that she was Mol. Yeah, again, over here the Gemara is using it as that is the Pshat. Last time we said it was one of many Pshatim what Kitayvu means. But at this stage, it's different because if you want to say the Jewish people are doing bris milah because that's part of the mitzvah of Avraham Avinu, so then it makes sense that it'll be Mol now. Why? Because now it's after the 8 days. What we're saying before is that Kitayvu was the definition that when he was born, he was Mol. That's the Pshat of Acherim. Now we're saying he's already months old. Of course he'll be Mol now. Now will be no Chiddush. This is not the Pshat of Acherim. Yeah. Okay, continues the Gemara. The next word in the pasuk is Zeh. Zeh, right? She said, Miyaldi Evrim Zeh. What does Zeh mean? She had no idea what she was saying. She was being misnaba. She was saying nevuah, but she didn't know. Zeh neifel ve'in acher neifel. What she was saying was that this child, he fell, meaning he went to the Yer, but no one else is going to go. The Gezer is over after him. Where those that are being directing for the various magics and they're chirping and they're muttering all these kind of things. But safe of enemy they might say from they mamish chirp and they have no idea what they're saying. Magim enemy the magician they have sometimes something to say, but they don't really know what they're saying. So in other words, she didn't chab that Mialdi Ivrim Zed Neifel. This one's going to be the last one who's going to fall into the or no one else. The Gzer is going to be over. Rashi over here notes something very fascinating. We've been doing this on Sunday. Talking about the Stamoim. when it comes to the Agadata Gemaras, again, you find so many different members. But if you notice, they're always with somebody. They're always with a name beforehand. Amar Rabbi Shmuel ben Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonis, Rabbi Yechon Shem Shem Recha. And look at the next lines of the Gemara. Rashi over here points out that this is not from Rabbi Lezer. What we're about to say is V'hach Mil Salav Rabbi Lezer Kamar. La the lava mitzumkoi ela gemara kamarla. That's Rashi's way of saying this is the stam of the Talmud, what we call today the academic stam of the Talmud. This is the Gemara saying it now. No man da amar, says the Gemara. Ra'u shemashin shal Yisrael b'mayim hu loika. Right, they saw that the Mashiach of Yisrael is been hit, right, because of the fact that he's now underwater. They saw that there's no more problems. So Amdav Gazer Kalben Hayilad Hayar Tashtichu. Right, they thought that the machine of Israel is going to be hit with the water, so they made a gzir that all the children have to be thrown into the water. Came the Shaji Moshe. Once Moshe was thrown into the water, Amru Tsu Chazinan. So now we have no more problems. Yeah, he's Simon about the right? Because this Simon that he was going to be born, now he's been thrown into the water. Now it looks like he's no longer. So they were Mavat the Gezerah. The Gezerah only lasted for that short period of time, for 3 months, from when Moshe Rabbeinu was born till he was put into the Nile. But Haim Enim Yaidin, Shalmei Mariva who like it. What they didn't chap is that the actual thing that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be hit by the water and be have problem in the water was actually not by the Yar where he was saved from, but rather later on by the Mei Mariva. What does it mean in the pasuk when it says Hema Mei Mariva Sheravu B'nei Yisrael Hashem? Right by Kadesh Bam. What did Hema mean? Hema Shero Stagnine Paroi V'tov. That Hema refers back to what the Stagnine Paroi saw, that there was that this Mashiach Shel Yisrael could have problems with the water. That was referring to actually the Mei Mariva. This is what it means when Moshe Rabbeinu said Sheish Me'es Elef Ragli. Right, this again, the Stam of Talmud brought down but it continues going. Moshe Rabbeinu said about if you look in Bar Midbar there, he's asking Hashem, how are you going to feed meat to all the Jewish people? How are you going to feed them so much? But Ragli also can mean because, right? Ragli has the ability to mean because, like the pasuk says, by Yaakov telling Lavan, Hashem bless you because of me. So Moshe says to the Jews, you were saved all because of me. As here it points out that the whole desire of the water starts with Moshe, meaning they were killing Jewish children before maybe, but the desire of the water starts with Moshe and ends when Moshe Rabbeinu was put into the Nile. So that is Bishvili. Everything was because of me with regards to that Gezerah. Fine, so that finishes sort of the Stam Talmud part of it. That day was the 21st day of Nisan. I'm sorry. Somebody's going to say Shira on the 21st day of Nisan, meaning by Kriyas Yamsov. Yilaka b'yom zeh, he's going to die on this day. It wasn't the 21st day of Nisan, it was the 6th day of Sivan. Somebody's going to accept the Torah on the 6th day of Sivan, he's going to die, he's going to have issues on this day? No. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. I understand that if you hold that Moshe Rabbeinu was born on the 7th day of Adar, that you get 3 months. Why? Because remember, 3 months they were hiding him. So if you have born in Zayin Adar, to get to Sivan is 3 months. Right? The Amar Mar b'Shiva ba'Adar Meis, b'Shiva ba'Adar Noila Moshe, b'Shiva ba'Adar b'Shisha b'Sivan Tlos Yarchi. Right? You have 3 months between 7 of Adar and 6 of Sivan. But according to Madam holds that he was born on the 21st day, and that it was this episode of him being in the Yar is on the 21st day of Nisan. Where's the 3 months? He was born on the 7th day of Adar. 7 Adar to 7 Nisan to 21 Nisan is not enough time. More it says it was a 2 Adar month. Reuben shall Rishon, right? Most of the first month of Adar. Reuben shall Achar, most of the second month of the third month of Nisan. Then Soisham, the whole month of the second Adar. That's how you get to 3 months. So we have to stop over here. Have a good time.